Hi, first graders. My name is Shelby and I'm from Partnership for Kids. Thank you so much for being at school today. It is important to be at school when you're healthy and not sick because when you are absent, it does affect the classroom because you and your classmates and your teacher all work together to learn. So thank you so much for being at school. Our topic today is achievers, and to achieve something means to complete something successfully. And there are many people who have achieved great things in their lifetime by setting goals and working hard to complete them. And you can achieve great things too. So a goal that I set for myself recently that I did achieve was that I wanted to get good grades before the end of the semester, which was like winter break. And I did this by asking my teachers for help when I didn't understand something, by doing my homework and completing it on time, and by studying in my free time. And I did achieve that goal, and it felt awesome when I achieved it. So our book today is called I Am Sonia Sotomayor, and in this book I picked out 3 words I think that you should know. And when we get to those words, I will pause and have us all read those words together. I am Sonia Sotomayor. In Spanish, that's Yo soy Sonia Sotomayor. I was born in New York City, and my family came from Puerto Rico. I learned to speak Spanish before I spoke English. My family called me ají, which means hot pepper, because I was always jumping around and finding trouble. My mother used to say, she learned to walk at 7 months and ran the very same day. Even my mother or my abuelita, my grandmother, dressed me up and my clothes would get wrinkled. Ribbons never stayed in my hair. You're already a mess. What should we do with her? There's nothing wrong with her, just too much energy. One time I got my head stuck in a bucket while I was trying to hear what my voice sounded like inside. Sonia, what have you done now? Hello in there. I also loved making up games, jousting like a knight with my little brother on my back. Charge! Crash. Sonia, what have you done now? One of my favorite places was my abuelita's apartment. Entering her home was like going straight to Puerto Rico. Once a month at abuelita's, my mom and my aunt would make sofrito, a spicy sauce. As they chopped peppers, onions, and tomatoes, I'd sneak to eat them out of the blender. Sonia, what have you done now? You'll get stuck. You'll get sick. You can't eat it raw. The grown-ups played lots of music and games too, like dominoes. It's right in front of your eyes. One of my favorite moments was when everyone would go quiet and my abuelita would perform for us. She looked so glamorous. We'd all be mesmerized as she read one of her favorite Puerto Rico poems by Jose Gautier Benitez. To know it, you need to see it. In dreams from afar, to learn how to love it, you need to leave it. I understood what the poems meant. I had so many dreams. When I was little, I used to imagine myself as the hero of my favorite book series, Nancy Drew, Girl Detective. Nancy was a master at doing puzzles, and no matter what got in her way, she could figure out things. She lived in a big house and solved crimes with her dad. Since he was a lawyer, he'd give her the best hints. Country club for dinner. My little blue roadster. I can't wait to be a detective when I grow up. In my neighborhood, dreams like that really came true. There weren't any detectives who looked like me. So my first word that I picked out was neighborhood, so we're going to go ahead and reread those 2 sentences together. And when we get to the word neighborhood, if you could please all say that aloud with me, that'd be awesome. Thank you. So in my neighborhood, dreams like that rarely came true. There weren't any detectives who looked like me. This is where I grew up. It's the Bronx, a neighborhood in New York City. So we'll reread that sentence again so we can read neighborhood together. It's the Bronx, a neighborhood in New York City. Pretty different from Nancy Drew, huh? We didn't live in a fancy house. We lived in a small apartment. My mother was a nurse, so I knew some Puerto Rican nurses, but there was only one Puerto Rican doctor. At the stores where we shopped, there were a lot of Puerto Rican workers, but few managers or owners, and even fewer lawyers and detectives. It wasn't that my Puerto Rican neighbors didn't work hard. People aren't poor because they're lazy. My mother worked long hours to pay our bills, but sometimes where you live affects the kind of opportunities you have. If you live in a nice neighborhood like Nancy Drew, you can go to a school like this. So let's reread that sentence and read the word neighborhood together again. If you live in a nice neighborhood like Nancy Drew, you can go to a school like this. That looks nice and safe. But if you live in a neighborhood like mine, you go to a school that has fewer supplies and isn't as safe. So let's reread that sentence again. But if you live in a neighborhood like mine, you get a school that has fewer supplies and isn't as safe. That definitely isn't nice. Welcome to the Bronx. My mom worked extra hours so she could pay to send my brother and me to a more respected school where we'd get a better education. But even with a good school, my young life was still pretty complicated. When I was 9 years old, I was diagnosed with diabetes, a disease that means your body keeps too much sugar in your blood. You'll be okay, but you'll have to get a shot every day. I was strong. I could handle the shot. Something even harder happened later that year. My father died. It was like an earthquake in my life. My world started to change and felt scary. One of the ways I found comfort was doing what you're doing right now, reading. I loved books. Books gave me a rocket ship, not only around the world, but through the world. This book that a doctor lent to me was my favorite. It was filled with stories of Greek gods and heroes. In that book, I learned that my name was a version of Sophia, meaning wisdom. Those days were hard for my mom. She had to pay for 2 kids all by herself, but it didn't slow her down. She ordered us a full set of Encyclopedia Britannica. When it arrived, it was like an early Christmas. 24 volumes in our house on every topic? I got the F's, fauna, flora, Florida. I got the M's, mitosis, meiosis, Mendel's Garden of Peas. Tell me what's not in these books. You've got to get your education. It's the only way to get ahead in the world. Each book was so heavy. It was like we lived in a library. The books were expensive too. My mom struggled to make the payments. But with the encyclopedia, the world expanded before me in 1,000 new directions. There was another reason why my world continued to change. My teachers. Every teacher has the power to inspire us kids. This one realized I loved to compete and win. That's Mrs. Riley. She put a gold star on the blackboard when you did something well. I wanted those stars. I wanted to collect them all. Nice job, Sonia. You too, Donna. 1 gold star for each of you. The first time I got an A grade on my report card, I made a promise to myself I would add 1 more A each time. With grades like that, I was on my way to becoming a detective. Did that mean everything was suddenly easy? Not in my neighborhood. Okay, so we'll go ahead and reread that again so we can read the word neighborhood together again. Did that mean everything was suddenly easy? Not in my neighborhood. Where we lived, if you didn't lock up your bike, it usually got stolen. And if you walked down the wrong alley, someone might try to beat you up. Once I found my little brother surrounded by bullies, so I walked over to protect him. If you're gonna beat him up, you gotta beat me up too. My sister was tough as nails. That didn't mean I couldn't be hurt. One day I was reading about diabetes. It said that people with diabetes, like me, could be a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer, even a teacher. But because of my disease, if I couldn't be a police officer, I couldn't be a detective, which means I couldn't be like Nancy Drew. You can't be a police officer if you have diabetes. What? I was devastated, but I wasn't defeated. I quickly found a new role model on TV show. He was a lawyer named Perry Mason. He used his smarts in the courtroom to figure out the truth behind each crime. This man is innocent. He must get justice. So the lawyer is the hero. Perry Mason was definitely the hero of the show, but I was more fascinated by a different character. The judge. Every episode, no matter what Perry Mason was trying to do, it was the judge who made the final decision. Look, nothing happens till the judge says so. Perry Mason can't do anything until he asks the judge for permission. That's the most important moment of the show. Whatever you say, Ahi. It was hard to understand every detail, but I could tell that each case was like a good puzzle, a complicated game with its own rules. From there, I knew I could be a great lawyer, even a great judge. To be a judge, I had to learn to speak in front of others. My first practice session was in church, doing a Bible reading. Good speakers have to look at people and make eye contact, but I was so nervous. I used this trick. I stared at people's foreheads instead. They had no idea. I did it, and I knew I could do it again. In high school, I joined forensics, which trains you in public speaking and debate. I won first prize in the speaking contest. But I also learned that one of the most important parts of making a good argument is being a good listener. My talk was about how we have a responsibility to look out for each other. Yet, perhaps the best thing I learned in forensics came from one of the other student coaches. A counselor at school had told me to apply for a local college, but the coach told me I could go farther. Try for the Ivy League. Aim for one of the top colleges, like Harvard, Yale, or Princeton. Those are some of the best schools in the country. My parents never even went to college. It sounded impossible. I didn't think kids from the South Bronx could go to the fancy schools like Princeton. But like my abuelita's poem said, to get what you want, you must dream it. What are you doing, Ahi? Applying to Princeton. I was valedictorian of my high school class, but would they accept me? I got in! I'm going to Princeton! Princeton seemed like a different planet. So planet was the second word I picked out for us to read together. So I'm going to reread this sentence and we're going to read planet together. Princeton seemed like a different planet. Most of the kids here came from wealthy neighborhoods and fancy schools. So our first word is also in here, so we're going to reread that second sentence and read the word neighborhood. Most of the kids here came from wealthy neighborhoods and fancy schools. They were used to skiing trips, tennis lessons, and vacations in Europe. I'd barely ever left the Bronx. Whoa, Sonia, what have you done now? Not exactly sure, Mommy. That first week at college, I couldn't sleep because I had a cricket in my room. So the third word I picked out was college. So we'll read that sentence again. That first week at college, I couldn't sleep because I heard a cricket in my room. That first week at college, I couldn't sleep because I heard a cricket in my room. Sonia, it's not in your room, it's outside on the tree. In New York, we didn't have trees outside our windows. Even though I got really homesick, I again found that books made me feel better. Here in the Firestone Library, I saw just how much knowledge there was in the world. During my time at Princeton, I did so well they invited me into Phi Beta Kappa, an honor society that recognizes top students. I almost threw away the invitation, thinking it was a fake jewelry scam. Says here I made summa cum laude. That's amazing! Are you excited? Of course I'm excited. What's summa cum laude? It means with highest honor in Latin. That means you got some of the best grades of the whole school. I'd never heard of any of the awards they gave me, including the Pine Prize, the most prestigious award a Princeton senior can win. To some people, athletes or astronauts are heroes. To me, the best action hero was a lawyer. That's what I wanted to be. So after graduation, I went to Yale Law, the top law school in the country. A lawyer's job is to help people. You can use the law as a force for good, as a way to protect the community, and to help people make peace. During my third year at law school, I walked by a meeting that was offering free snacks. I was a bit hungry, so I stepped inside, stumbling into a presentation that would change my life. I know lawyers can make a lot of money in a law firm, but I'd like to see you consider a public service job where you can help other people and seek justice in a courtroom. Seek justice in a courtroom? That's what Perry Mason used to do. Inspired by my old dreams, I became an assistant district attorney. As a prosecutor, my job was to find the truth and to make sure that if someone committed a crime, they didn't get away with it. When I started, there were so few Hispanic and female prosecutors, the other lawyers would ask me, "When's your boss getting here?" I am the boss. It didn't stop me from doing my job. I just had to convince the jury to agree with me. This man is a thief. He should be punished. Do you know the real reason juries loved Sonia? She could talk to all people, young, old, rich, poor, people of all races and backgrounds. Sonia understood everyone. I also understood that when people don't get along, it's usually because they can't imagine how someone else is feeling. From there, I had a few different jobs as a lawyer, until one day I heard that the U.S. District Court in Manhattan was looking for a new judge. You have to apply. You'd be perfect. I don't know, that's a really tough job to get. My boss was so determined, he put the application on my desk and made sure I had no other work that would get in the way of it. This was my dream, wasn't it? Of course it was, and it was coming true. I became the city's first Hispanic federal judge, and its youngest as well. Now my job was to make sure that in each case, people follow the laws correctly. During my first trial, I was so nervous my knees were actually knocking. All rise. Your Honor, we have a question. Once the case got started, my panic passed. I was ready to do my job, and also ready for what was coming next when I was promoted to the Court of Appeals. Soon, I was considered for the biggest legal job of all, being a justice on the Supreme Court of the United States. That's the court where the most important cases are decided. The justices are the ones who make those decisions. I was worried that the job would change my life, but a friend told me, "Sonia, this is not about you. This is about the little girls and boys, brown and black, who live in poor communities around the nation. They can dream bigger if you are on the Supreme Court." It made me think about the South Bronx. It made me think that there were no Hispanic female lawyers for me to follow at Princeton, Yale, the district attorney's office, or even as a judge. It made me think about all the people I could inspire. When I was little, did I ever dream about being a Supreme Court justice? You can't dream about what you don't know about. If I wanted others to have this dream, I needed to show them that it was possible. On October 8, 2009, at 55 years old, I was sworn in as the first Hispanic and third female justice to ever serve on the Supreme Court of the United States. During the ceremony, I made sure that my mother was standing right between me and the Chief Justice. When I told reporters how much of a role she played in my accomplishments, my mother humbly said she didn't know what she did. But I do. Remember, no one is self-made. No matter who you are, everyone gets help from someone. Sonia, what have you done now? In my life, I was the ají, the hot pepper, the one who wouldn't slow down. Because of where I was from, because I was poor and Latina, some people didn't think I would go far. But there were other people who helped my dreams come to life. They gave me opportunities and reminded me to keep going. Those are the people you need to listen to. Pay attention to the ones who believe in you. The more you learn, the farther you'll go. Education is a rocket ship. It can take you anywhere. But no matter how high you fly, never forget where you started. Today, Justice Sotomayor still uses many of her public speeches to talk to women's or minority groups. She's also been on Sesame Street twice. Justice Sonia Sotomayor tries to end each day asking 2 questions. What did I learn new today, and what act of giving did I do today? If she didn't learn something new, she reads. If she didn't do anything giving, she sends an email to someone she cares about. Don't worry about whether your dream will come true. A good dream will always stir something amazing inside of you. Whether it's in English, Spanish, or any other language, our dreams are often the same. A loving family, kind friends, a safe place to call home, and the chance to reach our potential. The world outside your window is a starting point, but there's so much more beyond that. Read, study, do right by people. No matter where you're born, there's no limit to what you can accomplish. I am Sonia Sotomayor. Yo soy Sonia Sotomayor. I am proof that with opportunity comes justice. And here is a picture of Sonia Sotomayor, right here. Okay, so I hope that you all enjoyed that book. I know it is kind of a long one, but the message is great, and it really does show the topic of achievers. So we only have one more discussion question for this topic. So if everyone could go around and share something that they want to achieve when they grow up. This could be the job that you want to have, where you want to go to college, or something like that. So go ahead and share, and then pause the screen when you're ready to share, and then unpause when you're finished. Okay, thank you so much to those of you who shared. Thank you again for being at school today and for reading this book along with me. You will receive a free copy of the book to take home with you if you already haven't. And thank you so much. Have a great day, first graders.